People's Democratic Party and vice presidential candidate of the APC, Shettima, attends Nigerian Bar Association conference in Lagos, speak on the state of the nation. Also, as the APC puts finishing touches to its campaign structure, members of the APC Presidential Campaign Council appear poised to deliver the 2023 election mandate amid internal issues. Welcome everyone to Politics Today. I'm Terry Ikumi, standing in for Sheon Okimbaloye. Let's begin with a count into the ASUU strike, and it's day 191. And following the suspension of the NASU and SANU strikes, Nigerians are hoping that ASUU will join soon because Nigerian students are tired of staying at home. Now, presidential candidates Peter Obi of the Labour Party, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, and vice presidential candidate of the APC, Shettima, were panelists at the opening ceremony of the Nigerian Bar Association conference in Lagos, which began today and will run till the 26th. Interestingly, all three men harped on more on what many consider to be their strengths. The APC vice presidential candidate Kashim Shettima spoke on the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu replicating the wonders in Lagos and Borno State. Now, Senator Shettima, a former Borno governor, also hit at pretentious politicians. Speaking right after Mr. Atiku Abubakar, Senator Shettima went further to say that Nigerians have the capability to see through the worn-out rhetoric and sophistry of pretentious politicians. He says Nigerians should follow, in his words, the man we know road. From day one, according to him, we will hit the ground running, we'll promptly address the issue of the economy, ecology, and security. And he goes further to say, we have the antecedents. I built some of the best schools in Nigeria. Go to Borno and see wonders. You will never believe that it is a state in a state of war. So we are going to replicate our achievements in Lagos and Borno and some of the frontline states so that our nation will be a better place. The fundamental issue is pure leadership. Now, the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, says he will hand over federal government-owned universities to state governments. According to him, the only way is to make sure that you make a conducive environment available to both foreign and local investors to participate in our country, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's power. Continuing, he says, I had an argument with a university professor from Federal University Lokoja. He said he read my policy that I intended to devolve, in other words, to return education to the states. How dare I do that? And he replied, the professor, saying that first, the country must set its universities in the right path. The regional government, according to him, can do more in terms of education. And he goes further to say, who are the successors of the regional governments? States. And he insists that children that are sent to America or England to study, who own those universities, mostly the private sector, according to him. So why, according to him, is it that you think we cannot do it here? We do have the money. Now let's go to the Labour Party candidates. Peter Obi, he says important areas must be tackled aggressively for a greater economy. And according to him, investment in intangible assets such as education and power are critical for economic renaissance. He also says, quote, what we need to do is the two most intangible assets, security and law and order. Provide conducive environments to attract investors, then education and power. The economy, according to him, is driven by these intangible assets. Well, before we get into the conversation of the day, here's your political roundup.
The national youth leader of the People's Democratic Party, Mohammed Kakanda, says the unity of the PDP is paramount to defeating the enemies of democracy, and that can be achieved by voting Atiku Abubakar in the next presidential election. Speaking in Jos, the Plateau State capital, the PDP youth leader notes that ethnicity and religious bigotry are stumbling blocks to the progress of the nation as it challenges the youth to rise against injustice and incompetence.
PDP is the last hope for all Nigerians.
The federal government says the national policy for the financing of safe schools will be launched by September to ensure a safe learning environment for students. Speaking at a meeting on safe school financing in Abuja, the permanent secretary in charge of special duties at the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Shehu Shinkafi, explains that the plan will incorporate the states and the federal government in ensuring adequate budgetary allocation to create a safe learning environment for teaching, learning, and restoring confidence in the nation's education system.
The ministry, as part of its commitment at that summit, constituted a steering committee and a secretariat for the Financing Safe Schools initiative.
Gombe State PDP governorship candidate Mohammed Jibrin Bade is calling on the state government to obey the court order and refrain from allegedly attacking his campaign office. Mr. Bade stated this in a press statement he issued reacting to the attack on his campaign office by alleged agents of the state government. He's asking Governor Noah Yahaya to obey the court. A chieftain of the Labour Party in Osun State, Mr. Olamide Awosole, is charging Nigerians on political participation in ensuring a greater and prosperous nation. Addressing journalists in Ile-Ife, he says this is the time to take the country back through the will of the people, while stating that the rot, corruption and impunity going on across the nation have reached a climax. He also commends the Independent National Electoral Commission for conducting free and transparent elections in Ekiti and Osun states.
The surest way to get back our country from all the greedy politicians is to take politics serious.
Motion for Atiku, a political support group for the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is asking Nigerians to go and collect their permanent voter card in order to be able to vote for the candidate of their choice. The Director General of the group, Stephanie Dike, while speaking at the meeting with supporters of Atiku Abubakar, say Nigerians cannot sit on the fence but must rise to the occasion of ensuring that they elect a leader who will provide good governance for Nigeria. According to her, Atiku Abubakar demonstrated quality leadership as Vice President of Nigeria and deserves to be given the opportunity to lead the country.
I encourage all the women and the youths to ensure that they have their PVC. That is your power, and that is what to tell who you become tomorrow.
The presidential candidate of a Accord Party, Professor Christopher Imumalen, is calling on Nigerians to uphold the ideals of the nation's founding fathers who fought for the establishment of Nigeria as a nation. Speaking in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, shortly after visiting former President Olusegun Obasanjo, the Accord Party candidate expresses optimism that the 2023 general elections will favor the party. He adds that Nigeria is in dire need of a leader who is passionate about unifying the country.
We present passion for Nigeria, value for life, value for education, value for security, value for every common life in our country.
Welcome back to Politics Today. We begin today with the ruling party's preparedness towards the 2023 general elections amid its internal issues, with some calling for the sack of the national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, and some aspirants from the party's presidential primary asking for a refund. Well, the APC's next meeting is scheduled to hold early next month, so let's see how the party will resolve these issues. My guest tonight is Hannatu Musawa, and she joins us virtually. She is the Deputy Director, Media Relations, APC Presidential Campaign Council. Welcome to Politics Today. Can you hear me, Hannatu? Oh, you must be having some technical challenges there. Well, the APC, unlike the other parties, or the APC is taking the first step to constitute its campaign committees, while the other parties try to resolve their issues. Not saying there are no issues within the APC, but the APC is taking that step to come to set up its campaign committees. I believe Hannatu is with us now. Hello, Hannatu. Welcome to Politics Today. Hello, Hannatu? Some of the challenges that come with technology. Anyways, so ahead of the APC's next meeting, which many have said will hold in the first week of September, there are concerns as to what sort of ratifications will hold there. Hello, Hannatu.
Hi, good evening.
Oh, finally. Thanks for joining us on Politics Today.
Erratic here.
Oh, yes, it is. Let's just get straight to the conversation now. Just ahead of the NEC meeting and the concerns for the future of the APC national chairman. What's your take on that? And what sort of outcome do you expect from that? And what sort of impact do you think that will have on the party going into the elections in 2023?
Well, I think what you're going to see is a vote of confidence for the chairman of the APC. There's no having to remove him as the chairman. As a party, we want to go into this next election united, and unity comes from the top. And Senator Abdullahi Adamu has been able to navigate this party to where it is now, where we've had a very contentious primary election in which Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged. And I think everybody in the party is in full support of the maintenance of Senator Abdullahi Adamu as the chairman of the party going into the election. We have full confidence in him, and I don't think anything is going to change in that regard.
But are you as confident of the unity of the party going into the elections if he is retained as the chairman by the NEC, considering the sort of voices that have been raised calling for his removal?
I'm very much in support of that, and I'm very much confident about it. I think the best chance as a party that we have of winning this election is keeping the status quo, is into the election with the leadership of Senator Abdullahi Adamu. I think most of what you are hearing in the news is not from an official position, from maybe the social media or something like that. But as far as I know, most of the leaders of the party are in full support of Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and the NEC itself is in full support of his leadership. And every member of the party wants to remain status quo till we get into this election with the leadership of Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
What about the conversation of refund for aspirants in the primaries, with the primary which held earlier this month? How do you see this playing out?
Sorry, can you say that again?
The calls for refund, the calls for refund of the monies for the presidential form bought by the aspirants. There are calls that they should be refunded. Recall that the president had asked that those who ran for the earlier, for the position of party officials at the time should be refunded. Now the aspirants are asking for a refund. Do you think that that's a possibility, and what impact will this have on the unity of your party? Hello, Hanatu? Okay, seems like we've lost her there again. Well, the conversation is on the APC's preparedness towards the 2023 presidential elections. And as I said earlier, the APC has taken it a step further by setting up its campaign committees, and we already know those who will make up the we already know those. Hello, Hanatu, can you hear me? You're muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay.
All right, better. Please go ahead.
Yes, so, I think you were asking whether about the issue of the
Can you hear me? So let me ask the question again, just in case you're not clear. There are the aspirants who ran to become candidates in the presidential primary of the APC want a refund. Now, this is not far-fetched, considering that the president had asked those who ran for the elective positions within the party earlier this year to be refunded, especially the position of the chairman. So the question is, should they not be refunded? What impact will this have? Will this affect the unity of the party in any way?
I think it will affect the unity of the party in a positive way. If the National Working Committee has decided that people will be the aspirants that vied for the position of the president, flag bearer rather, should be refunded, they will be refunded. If that's and that can only help in augmenting the unity of the party and taking everybody along. If that is what the position of the National Working Committee is, I think it will work in the benefit of the party.
All right, speaking of unity, let's talk a little about the chances of your party ahead of the 2023 general elections. I recall an article which you released in 2013, I believe. You described the APC as a new dawn. And you said if it's well managed, the APC has the ability to bring Nigeria together once again and to unite the people. Did I get that clearly?
Maybe. I probably did say something like that.
Yes, you did in 2013. So 7 years plus. When you released this article, the APC was still struggling to be a party, to be a force to kick out the PDP. You foresaw something like this of the APC fostering unity in the country. So 7 years down the line, would you say that the APC has been able to do that?
I think, for the most part, really, APC has done the best it can, or it has done well, given the circumstances that it has been faced with. We have to understand that there's no government that is perfect. I mean, one of the, I think, chief virtues of democracy is that, its defects democratic process, that one has the power to correct it. And we're at the point now where Nigerians can decide what APC has brought for them on the table. We now want to use this time to educate Nigerians more as to the gains that APC has been able to record. We do in an atmosphere of insecurity and economic strife. We understand that as APC members, we're also human beings and we're also Nigerians. But at the same time, we do want to point out that despite the very difficult circumstances or some of the deficiencies that we have seen within the administration, there has been a lot of areas that as an administration has been able to make some very great achievements. And I think sometimes it's very difficult to sort of see the light through the trees because we're all living through a very, very tenuous situation at the moment. But if we do give an opportunity to listen to all the areas that APC has been able to make very, very good achievements in, I think people will be able to appreciate that APC has not done as badly as some of the critics seem to record. There have been many areas of achievement, and despite the fact that we're going through very difficult challenges at the moment, we are trying to see ways that we can sort of make reforms. And as a deputy spokesperson of the campaign of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, we want to present Nigerians with programs that will be able to address those areas of deficiencies that this particular government has recorded.
All right, let me get your reaction to the narratives that have trailed the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and, of course, Kashim Shettima so far, since they were announced as presidential and vice presidential candidates. How would you assess the acceptance or otherwise of Nigerians to these two?
Honestly, if I was to give you a very honest answer, and I will speak from a position that I know, I'm from northern Nigeria. I'm from the northwestern part of Nigeria. As I speak to you now, I'm in my village of Musawa, which is in Katsina State. And I come here every week because I'm trying to do a lot of grassroots work to sort of campaign, because campaign season hasn't started, but sort of grassroots network for my two principals. And despite what you see on the social media, the reality on ground is very, very different. There has been an acceptability, specifically from my part of the country, which is from the northern part of the country. And I know I just came from Lagos yesterday, and even from the southwestern part of the country. I do understand that the choice that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu made in picking Kashim Shettima brought up certain sensibilities. But those are things that we're trying to work through. We are by that particular choice. And at the same time, we're doing grassroots campaign. And from what I see, there is such an energy and an excitement about the emergence of Kashim Shettima together with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And, you know, I say again, I think a lot of what the narrative that's coming out in the media is what you're from the new media, and I don't see that translating on the ground. On the ground is very, very different. The way people perceive the emergence of these two brilliant achievers as they're seen, and especially with Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the north, the way that the northerners see him, for the most part, is that he is a friend of the north. He is so. In 2007, he provided a platform for Alhaji Kashim
Hello, Hanatu. Yeah, we seem to be having the erratic network is just repeating itself, and we may have to let you go here. Well, thank you very much for your time. All right, so we continue the conversation on the 2023 elections. We'll look at the reconciliation efforts within the PDP as the countdown to the commencement of campaigns continues. So will the PDP be able to put it out in order in good time? The Reconciliation Committee has begun its meetings, and both camps, that's the Wike and Atiku camp, appear optimistic. But then what happens if all falls through? Let's turn to my next guest. He is a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party and the former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido. He joins us from Kano. Your Excellency, welcome to Politics Today. Hello, Your Excellency, can you hear me? Okay, we may have to take a quick break, and when we return, we will try to connect with former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, to discuss issues surrounding the reconciliation efforts within the PDP with regards to the frosty relationship between River State Governor Nyesom Wike and the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar. Please stay with us.
House of Representatives, National Assembly Complex, 3 Arm Zone, Garki, Abuja. Time 10 a.m. For more inquiries, please call 003-596-0967 or 0703-193-4506. Signed, Honorable Dr. Aishatu Jubilu Duku, Chairman.
Welcome back to Politics Today. My guest is on standby. Here is the former governor of Jigawa State and the chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, His Excellency Sule Lamido. Your Excellency, welcome to Politics Today. Can you hear me, Your Excellency?
Thank you, Terry. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so let's begin. Absolutely. So the conversation is more about the reconciliation efforts within your party. And the APC has already begun constituting its campaign committees, but your party cannot do that, choosing instead to hold on until these issues are resolved. What's the situation of things? We understand that the committee set up by both parties has already met. So what's the situation? Do you have an update? Can you hear me? Okay, so let me take the question again. It's regarding the report of a possible stalemate in the reconciliation efforts of the PDP. Is there an update for us as to what exactly is happening with that reconciliation move? Your Excellency, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Terry?
I can. Please go ahead. So the question is on the update on the reconciliation efforts.
What was the question?
The question is on the reconciliation efforts by the PDP to amend the frosty relationship between Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State and the PDP presidential flag bearer of Atiku. We understand that the committee set up by both has already met, but there are reports of a possible stalemate based on the demands, I believe. Do you have an update? Your Excellency, can you hear me? Anyway, while we'll fix that, let's take you to some of the statements made by the presidential candidates and presidential candidates of both the PDP and the Labour Party. That's Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, and as well as the vice presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Shettima. Here's what Atiku had to say when he attended the NBA conference holding in Lagos, which began today in Lagos.
In the 21st century, as far as our country is concerned, I want to state that since the return of democracy in 1998-99, Nigeria has never found itself in such a very, very critical joint in our history. Today we have had all the negative indices as far as our country. Today we are more disunited as a nation. We have never experienced this level of poverty. We have never experienced this state of insecurity. We have never experienced this level of unemployment. We have recognized all these negative developments in our history. What is important is how do we tackle these challenges. And this is where history and also experience beckon on us to make sure that we don't get it wrong at this point in time.
All right, let's hear what the Labour Party presidential candidate had to say when he spoke on the state of the nation ahead of the 2023 elections at the NBA conference.
From corruption to a transparent country, from a country of lawlessness to a country of law and order. But in all this, it is important that we look at where we are today for people to understand the gravity of the journey we are going to take if we are going to transit. Where are we today? Nigeria has qualified to be a failed state. We have met the two or three biggest characteristics of a fair state. Number one is when you're no longer in charge of your territory. Today, we are among the top terrorized countries of the world. We are among the top kidnapping countries of the world. Banditry, criminality, bandits have taken over some parts of this country. Nigerians are being killed daily. All sorts of criminality is going on daily. Even our most important source of foreign exchange revenue, oil, is today 80% stolen. That shows how bad it is.
And then we had the vice presidential candidate of the APC, Senator Kashim Shettima, who spoke on leadership. Take a listen.
Nigerians have the capability to see through the worn-out rhetorics and sophistry of pretentious politicians. Nigerians should follow the man who knows the route. From day one, we will hit the ground running, will promptly address issues of the economy, ecology, and security. And we have the antecedents. I do some of the best schools in Nigeria. Go to Borno and see wonders. You will never believe that it's a place in a state of war. So we are going to replicate our achievements in Lagos, in Borno, and some of the frontline states, so that Nigeria will become a better place. The fundamental issues is purely that of leadership. Leadership that has a skill set. Leadership that is in tune with realities.
Well, I think it's interesting to find the candidates speaking on issues. Issue-based campaigns is what everybody has always wanted. And the level of awareness in the polity now, Nigerians look forward to engaging these candidates on issues. We have our guest back, former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, is joining us from Kano State. Your Excellency, can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me, Your Excellency? Well, what a day. We apologize for the technical hiccups that we're experiencing and how it's affecting you. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Today. Once again, we apologize for the technical hitch that we're experiencing right now. We have the executive director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, on the line. Hello, Samson. Welcome. He joins us virtually. Samson Itodo, welcome to Politics Today.
Hi, good evening, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, well, the conversation is ahead of the 2023 general elections. And one thing we do know is that campaigns start in just about a month from now. What do you look forward to as with regards to campaign? Clearly, Nigerians would like to have an issue-based campaign.
Well, absolutely. Nigerians are earnestly looking forward to a campaign that is defined by issues. Nigerians are in dire need of leaders that can provide, the excellent, transformative, responsive, and accountable leadership. And we are all hoping that the campaign period will see, candidates focusing on the issues, and not just focus on the issues, but showing Nigerians and demonstrating first the knowledge of those issues, but also proffering solutions. And there are core issues that Nigerians would really look forward to as the campaign periods begin. One is the issue about the economy. How are the political parties and their candidates going to solve the economic challenges that Nigeria grapples with. How are they going to solve the issues relating to our internally generated revenue, issues around taxation, issues around budget implementation, issues around funding our recurrent and capital expenditure. Nigerians don't want to see a situation where government borrows, to cover recurrent expenditure. We're also looking at a situation where, the candidates will provide a roadmap on how to deal with the debts, both external and domestic debts that the country, has. These are fundamental issues, and it's not going to be a time for buzzwords. Nigerians are going to put these candidates to task. They've got to show and demonstrate that they have solutions to our problems. The second critical issue is on insecurity. As you know, the level of insecurity is so high in different parts of the country. We're dealing with multidimensional security crisis, be it insurgency or banditry or kidnapping. The levels of criminality are on a record high. And how will, these candidates, solve this problem of insecurity is one of the issues that Nigerians are really looking forward to. The other issue is this ethnic fragmentation and polarization that seem to have gained currency within the Nigerian political space. And we want to see how these candidates will demonstrate their knowledge of the diversity of Nigeria and their ability, to harness our diversity and the potential within the Nigerian geographical space to foster development. These are critical issues that Nigerians will be looking forward to, and we hope that the candidates will subject themselves to public debate, because Nigerians want to hear. We don't want to see representatives. We don't just want to see policy documents or manifestos. We want these leaders who seek the votes of Nigerians to come and debate those issues. And it has to be a competition of ideas. And based on that, the voters will decide on who is more qualified, who is more competent, and above all, who has the moral capital to provide the leadership that Nigeria deserves at this critical moment of our political history.
When you follow conversations regarding these elections and the candidates, and you hear some really hard-biting words that are really dangerous for the country going into the elections, especially as we preach a non-violence election, what are your concerns, and how do you think, or what roles do you think that the candidates can play to ensure that going ahead into these elections, that these conversations are not, verbal attacks or whatever could possibly harm the election will not come to play?
From a Yaga Africa perspective, we're very concerned because it appears that this election period and the campaign period would actually witness the highest level of toxicity, as well as incendiary statements from the candidates, but even their supporters, as you can see in just the few days after their emergence as candidates. And we're quite worried. And that, would overheat the polity, and this could degenerate into political instability. I think that the candidates need to be tempered with their rhetoric. Their spokespersons also need to uphold certain principles in their communications with the Nigerian people. I'd say that, these fault lines of religion, of ethnicity, are critical issues that will dominate the campaigns, no doubt. But I hope that the candidates, will be measured, will be professional, and more importantly, refrain from this proclivity of, adopting this attitude towards promoting gutter politics or practicing gutter politics. That's not what Nigerians want. Nigerians want leaders who are peaceful, leaders who are disciplined enough, to understand that this is a game, it's a competition of ideas, and it's not competition of who is able, to use abusive and vitriolic messages. That's not what Nigerians want. We want to focus on the issues. The second critical issue is the role that the security agencies also have to play. The IG of police, is going around the country conducting election security trainings for police officials. I think that our security agencies need to inspire confidence on the part of Nigerians and other stakeholders that they are fully prepared for the elections, that elections will hold in different parts of the country. If INEC is unable to deploy to certain parts of the country, then elections cannot hold in those places, and there are legal and operational implications of that. And I hope that we are, as a country, really reflecting on those places where elections are unable to hold due to insecurity, and our security agencies are trying to address the situation, because you cannot deny the Nigerian people the opportunity to elect leaders of their choice by virtue of insecurity that they didn't contribute to. It will be injustice. And so security agencies need to rise up to the occasion. The third point is the president has a responsibility. He has promised that he will bequeath to Nigerians a credible electoral process. It doesn't start and end with signing the Electoral Act. It goes beyond that. He needs to charge the security agencies as a commander-in-chief to address this insecurity across the country and assure the voters that they will be safe, assure INEC and other stakeholders, even the political actors, that they can go around the country campaigning for votes without any fear of security threats or violence against them. For me, the last critical point, around, this insecurity, it's about what we as a people, the commitment that we have to make. My greatest sort of concern is that there's no bipartisan consensus around, peaceful conduct of the next elections. And three things come to play. INEC has a fundamental role to deliver credible elections, and if it doesn't do so, it might, trigger forms of violence. But it appears there's commitment on the part of INEC to ensure credible elections, and INEC should be supported. The second is when there's perceived injustice and an attempt by the incumbent, to capture INEC. And if other political actors don't have confidence that INEC is impartial and it has been captured by the ruling party, that's also a recipe, for disaster and violence. And so it is important that now that resident electoral commissioners have been appointed, and some of them we know have political affiliations, we know have been indicted for corrupt practices, that the Senate would ensure that any nominee of the president that has questionable character and partisan leaning is not cleared as a resident electoral commissioner to manage elections. Because when they are deployed to those states and they begin to advance partisan interest, you're going to get pushback, from other political actors. And thirdly is the role of misinformation and fake news. And this is where citizens have a critical role to play to condemn and reject every forms of misinformation, as simple as verifying information that comes to your WhatsApp or to your cell phones and your social media platforms. Verify those information before you share them. Verify them before you react, because fake news and misinformation is part of the electoral infrastructure deployed by political actors to influence the outcome of elections.
Mr. Itodo, just before I let you go, tomorrow the House of Representatives will be holding a public hearing on the Electoral Offences Commission bill. We have had different inputs into that. What's your stand on that? What's Yaga's position on what could help the elections go better, especially in the area of security, where there are concerns as to who should prosecute who? You recall that in 2019, there were, INEC came up, was it INEC or the security agencies, put up the names of the police officers who would be at certain polling units, at least to track them or trace them in cases of violence or something. But putting that into the Electoral Act, what do you expect to see?
Well, the action taken by the National Assembly,
bill, I beg your pardon.
in this case by the House of Reps to consider the Electoral Offences Commission bill is long overdue, and we commend the National Assembly for taking that action. YAGA Africa will be at a public hearing tomorrow. We will make our position known on the provisions of the Electoral Offences Commission. We do need an Electoral Offences Commission to address electoral impunity. But a few things, that we need to reflect on. And one is, as long as this commission takes the burden of INEC, and that's the burden of prosecution of electoral offenses, but the individuals that man this commission it's equally important, because this same Electoral Offences Commission will be working within a political context. And in this, the political context where institutions are unable to perform their mandates because you have interferences from political actors. What's the point if you have an Electoral Offences Commission where the commission cannot prosecute certain actors for electoral malfeasance because they are protected by, the hegemons and politicians, especially if they are supporters of the ruling party, whether at the center or at the state. So it goes beyond setting up the commission. The political will on the part of, political leaders and office holders to respect the rule of law and constitutionalism is quite critical. The second is, you've got, electoral offenses in the Electoral Act. You also have, classes of electoral offenses in this proposed bill. Our sort of argument is, if the police that is saddled with the responsibility of internal security will have to wait for an Electoral Offences Commission to take action, that same, situation will put us where we are, where you're going to have electoral offenders and they are not prosecuted. Because one, the police arrest, the police investigate, and then you have a commission that prosecutes until the files, are transmitted to, the commission, and the commission cannot prosecute because it's not going to have its own set of police officers that will be dedicated, to arrest and investigation. And so you need that interagency sort of collaboration. But I say that, yes, the Electoral Offences Commission, we support the creation of the Electoral Offences Commission, is in tandem with the recommendation of Justice Uwai's committee, is in tandem with the Nnamani Committee and also civil society organizations. But if certain issues are not addressed, you're just going to establish an institution that will back but not bite.
Thank you very much, Samson Itodo, Executive Director of YAGA Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's politics today. Thanks for your time. Good night.